Hey everyone, let's just dive right into this explainer. Today we're going to unpack a moment in history that literally shattered the old world. We're talking about the French Revolution. And look, we're not going to treat this like some dusty, boring textbook chapter. No way! This is a violent, desperate, and honestly cinematic story about how absolute power was brought to its knees and how the modern world emerged from total chaos.
To really understand this explosion, you've got to feel the tension of Paris in 1789. Just picture this. You have narrow, muddy streets packed with desperate, starving people literally fighting over a loaf of bread. And then, just a few miles away, the Palace of Versailles. It's practically glowing with gold and just massive, unchecked extravagance. You're looking at two completely parallel universes, and they are on an absolute collision course.
Section 1. A Kingdom Crumbling.
To figure out why France completely broke down, we have to look at who was actually running the show. The Bourbon kings operated under what's called the divine right theory. Basically, imagine believing you literally only report to God. No performance reviews, no checks and balances, just pure, unquestioned authority. Now, earlier kings pulled that off, but the guy in charge in 1789, Louis XVI, was notoriously weak. He and his wife, Marie Antoinette, were dropping absolute fortunes on lavish banquets and jeweled gowns, all while peasants were quite literally starving in the rain just outside their windows.
Just look at the sheer scale of this inequality. 97%. That is a staggering number. You see, French society was split into three major social classes, or estates. You had the first estate, the clergy. The second estate, the nobility. And then you had the third estate, which was, well, literally everyone else. We're talking merchants, lawyers, workers, and peasants. 97% of the entire population was crushed at the absolute bottom of this social pyramid, holding zero political power.
And here's the real kicker. The top two estates, the incredibly wealthy clergy and the nobles, were completely exempt from paying taxes. Seriously, they paid nothing. That meant the starving 97% carried the entire financial burden of the country on their broken backs. There was this grim saying going around at the time that hits the nail on the head. The nobles fight, the clergy pray, and the people pay.
Unsurprisingly, this whole setup was totally doomed. France wasn't just politically broken, it was financially bankrupt. The treasury vaults were dusty and empty, and the national debt had just skyrocketed beyond all limits. So, in this massive twist of irony, the absolute king of France was backed into a corner and actually had to ask the people for help. He was forced to call a meeting of all three estates, known as the States General, for the first time in 175 years, simply because he literally could not pay his bills.
Section 2. The Spark of Ideas.
Because, empty bellies alone don't start a revolution. Ideas are the true catalyst for change. Take Jean-Jacques Rousseau. In The Social Contract, he dropped what was basically an intellectual bomb on the 18th century. He argued that true sovereignty, like the actual power to rule, belongs to the people, not the king. It completely flipped the script on how society was supposed to function. I mean, what a radical thought for the time.
And he definitely wasn't alone. Other brilliant minds were dismantling the old world with their pens too. You had Voltaire aggressively going after the church, pushing hard for reason and religious tolerance. Meanwhile, Montesquieu laid out the blueprint for separating government powers into executive, legislative, and judicial branches. And these weren't just abstract ideas trapped in dusty books. They poured out into the streets of Paris. People were reading these pamphlets by candlelight, and those quiet whispers of discontent rapidly turned into absolute shouts for justice.
Section 3. The People Revolt.
Let's look at how those abstract ideas gained unstoppable physical momentum in the summer of 1789. So when the States General finally met in May, the Third Estate arrived feeling pretty hopeful. But the voting system was totally rigged. It meant that 97% would always get outvoted 2-1 by the elite clergy and nobles. Well, they'd had enough. By June 17th, they just declared themselves the true National Assembly. And when the king literally locked the doors to their meeting hall to keep them out, they didn't just go home. They marched right over to a nearby indoor tennis court, raised their arms, and swore a fierce oath to stick together until they had forged a brand new constitution for France.
Then, the pressure cooker finally exploded. July 14, 1789. The people of Paris pushed way past their breaking point, marched on the Bastille. This towering, massive stone fortress was the ultimate terrifying symbol of royal tyranny. Amidst the smoke, the fire, and shattering chains, the crowd just surged in. They freed the prisoners, tore up the records of feudal rights, and raised the tricolor flag. The old world had literally fallen.
Section 4. A New Nation Born.
With the mighty fortress in ruins, the old France was dead.
And the victors wasted absolutely no time building a new one. The National Assembly moved with breathtaking speed. I mean, in a matter of weeks, they dismantled centuries of oppression. Feudalism? Erased. Nobles were voluntarily surrendering their privileges. They drafted the legendary Declaration of the Rights of Man, which abolished torture, established elected judges, and demanded religious freedom. It was a staggering transformation that laid the exact groundwork for the modern democracies we live in today.
Section 5. The Reign of Terror.
Now, as history often shows us, revolutions have a tragic habit of devouring their own children. And here, the narrative takes a really dark, bloody turn. By 1792, France was officially a republic. King Louis XVI was put on trial, found guilty of treason, and in early 1793 he was executed. But getting rid of the king didn't bring peace. Instead, it unleashed this terrifying paranoia all across the new republic. Enter the guillotine. This industrial, unfeeling execution machine worked without rest, and it quickly became the grim, permanent symbol of this chaotic new era.
Right at the center of all this widespread paranoia was Maximilien Robespierre. Acting as the dark architect of the Committee of Public Safety, he unleashed the Reign of Terror, sending thousands upon thousands of citizens to the blade. But here's the thing about revolutionary violence: it is incredibly difficult to control. In a twist of dark poetic irony, Robespierre himself was overthrown in 1794. He was sent to the exact same guillotine he had weaponized against so many others, and it was really only with his death that the terror finally fell silent.
Section 6. An Enduring Legacy. As the dust finally settled on the Reign of Terror, we have to look at the permanent marks this explosive era left on humanity. The immediate aftermath is honestly a fascinating study in contrasts. Did the revolution establish a stable republic right away? No, not at all. The chaos actually perfectly paved the way for a young, highly ambitious military commander named Napoleon Bonaparte to rise up as a dictator. But look at the sheer triumph of it all. Absolute monarchy, the divine right of kings, and the crushing chains of feudalism, they were abolished forever. They proved definitively that the old ways could be broken.
And they left us with an enduring battle cry: liberty, equality, fraternity. These aren't just fancy words on a page. They are the bedrock ideas born in the blood and fire of Paris in 1789. They fundamentally changed humanity's relationship with power itself. A world ruled exclusively by kings and priests gave way to a world ruled by citizens and constitutions. And those ideas, they still echo in the halls of every single democracy on Earth today.
Which brings us to our final thought. The events of 1789 tore down an ancient world for sure. But the struggle to balance liberty with order and equality with power, that's a battle we are still fighting. So, did the French Revolution ever truly end? I'm going to leave you with that provocative thought to consider. Think about the ongoing daily cost of liberty and how the flames lit in Paris centuries ago literally continue to shape our world today. Thanks for hanging out with me on this explainer, and remember to keep questioning the history around you.